Welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and this is episode 213. Had a wonderful weekend. This weekend I went for a 10K run walk, and I am proud to have finished. And then right after that, I was in a 3-kilometer canoe race. So basically here at Island Pond, I ran around the pond, the lake, and then I canoed around the island. And I got to tell you, for someone who doesn't really run or canoe, you pay a high price the next day with soreness. But here I am. I'm optimistic about a lot of things in my future. And doing something like that back-to-back, literally back-to-back, was just a lot of fun. And it's an event called the Pentathlon. It's a fundraiser. I was at a workshop one time. The person kept saying fundraisers, and I stuck in my head. I'm an optimist, as many of you know. I probably get it from my family. I had an uncle who was an optimist. One time he fell off a building, and when he passed the 26th floor, someone yelled out, "How you doing?" And he said, "So far, so good." That's pretty impressive. Now, he survived the fall of 47 floors. Sadly, the building was 48. You may have to replay that joke. All right, let's get started with our questions. Remember, if you have questions, send them to the podcast at danjohnuniversity.com. Please send them there, okay? It makes my life easier. It makes everybody else's lives easier. Podcast at danjohnuniversity.com. Let's get started. Our first question is from Wouter. I have 2 questions about the kettlebell press. And by the way, he has an issue that honestly I don't know if I've ever dealt with anybody with this before. I have 2 questions regarding the kettlebell press. 1, I can half kneel press the 24 kilo, 3 sets of 8 with good form fairly easily, which is a really good workout and not bad at all. But if I try standing up, I can barely do 6 reps. What gives? I don't know. Generally, when I work with most populations, when you take away the other leg, doing the half kneeling, standing 1 foot presses, it really seems to cut down the person's stability. But in your case, having both legs underneath you, cuts back in your reps. I find that fascinating. I'd love to have seen a video on this. I assume the half kneeling press would be harder because of the added instability. And I think so too. I have a very solid core, so why are the standing strict presses much harder for me? Without a video and only guessing, one thing I see a lot of people do on the half kneeling press, and I don't know if this is a problem, but they really tend to launch it. So when you're on the half kneeling position, there is a little bit of ability to let the weight descend a little bit. And so you're getting a little bit of a slingshot or rubber band effect by the offside. I only say that because I picked that up on myself when I was doing the perfect workout and getting tired. The perfect workout is 3 sets of 8 left, 3 sets of 8 right, plus 30-second hangs in between. It's a hip thrust, a hard hip thrust. It's the goblet squat to overhead squat, and then a suitcase carries. And what I noticed on the days I was coming in a little bit tired, a little fatigued, I started launching it. Wouter, I don't know if that's the answer, but it could be that simple. Or you could be just really connected differently than the rest of us, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's probably a real advantage. It'd be interesting to find out if you're really tall or just, how your body parts are. It's interesting. I have a person on the inner circle. I don't know if they took it as offensively, but I meant it from the heart that when they lift, they're very, very long. And when you're long, your squats, your pulls, your presses are going to look different than if you're, rather short. Being short with smaller limbs, shorter limbs can be a real advantage with some of the movements. And of course, being tall and long is a huge advantage in all kinds of other things. So those are just some guesses, and frankly, I don't know. To improve my press, I should, as you often say, simply press more, which is what I'm doing. But out of curiosity, what would, if any, be a good way to boost it? He says this: drop down to a lower weight and do more reps, go up in weight and have fewer reps to build more strength and muscle. And of course, in this example, it's going to be both. Building strength is we used to use the word matrix, but now matrix has a different meaning. But so, adding volume, is always a good thing in the weight room. The problem is it gets you to that little problem. You did 10 sets of 10, 100 reps. But if you did it with, a 1 kilo weight or, 2 to 5 pounds, and you just did a lot of garbage reps, it's not going to help. Intensity, of course, is how close you get to, maximum. That's a very simple way to explain it. And in my books, I go through all the details because there are so many definitions of intensity. But it is true, as you nudge up those bigger and bigger loads, you get stronger. Easy strength, by the way, is based on the idea is trying to get your 60, your 70, and your 80% loads to feel lighter and lighter and lighter, with the understanding when your 80% feels pretty easy, you can almost guarantee your hundreds up. And then, of course, the third way you can get strong is density, and that's basically the same amount of work in less time or more work in the same amount of time. Which one of those three is going to help you? Volume, intensity, or density? Well, the answer is all three. Personally, and I think I'm putting together a hypertrophy book, is I do think, and this is just because this is what I was taught and this is what I've seen the most success with, is I think in the beginning you work with volume. So, when I people read articles about you only need 1 or 2 sets of lifting, very often the groups they're proving it with are untrained people, untrained adolescents, or people at a senior center, and you have them do 1 set of 15 and the miracle happens. And it does happen. Well, the tradition is you keep nudging those reps up, and once you get to a point where you get to mindless repetitions, you then add load and you do 2 sets, and then you then add load and do 3 sets. And for probably most of our listeners, 3 sets is probably enough most of the time for your goals. Obviously, people do much, much more, and that's fine. When it comes to the second one, increase in intensity, it's always that idea that it's great to increase your load, it's great to increase your intensity, but you have to do it. Well, you can't miss. The reps have to be very well done. And when I mean that, there's that whole subcategory of, if you're doing strict presses but you're using your legs, and compare that to a strict press where you don't use your legs, cliche time, apples versus oranges. When it comes to most people, and this is what I've discovered, density for most people is probably the best thing. That's why I like kettlebells. I think kettlebells are the master density tool. They're just, if all you have is a 24 kilo bell, like you, for example, getting the same amount of work in less time is density. All three have to be done. All three should be played around with a little bit, and the art and science of strength comes down to that. So generally I push volume first, then we move into intensity, and then we move into density. After that, of course, and you could do 3 weeks of each, then you swing back to more volume, ideally when you come back to more volume with a heavier load. So in your case, if you're doing 3 sets of 8, let's just say you're doing them in 6 minutes, a fun thing to chase on a density workout is try to get that 3 sets of 8, both sides, and faster. So 5 minutes and 45 seconds, 5:30, 5:25, 5, and once you start to slide into around 4 minutes, you're probably too strong for that bell now. It's always a tough question. Now, as you move up to that heavier bell in the next round of volume, for you're handling the 24 pretty easily. Now you move up to the 28 or the 32. You have to build. Now with the 32, you're gonna have a big drop off in your reps. So you'll just build the volume up again. And then maybe if you can, if you have other bells are great. If not, do different variations, the bottom up, the waiter press. You're already doing half kneeling, so maybe stand on one foot, pressing. These are all ideas. And then after that, chase density again. As common as you think this question is, a lot of people miss it. A lot of people get caught in this little loop of doing just one thing year in, year out, which has value. I won't argue with that. But you do need to play around with those three qualities somehow to progress. And of course, the name of my game is progressive resistance exercise. Thank you very much, Walter. It was a good question. Thank you. We have a question from Eric. Well, listen to this. I like this. I am in the 10th week of following Even Easier Strength program out of the Easy Strength Omni book, and I've been enjoying it. I've rotated through incline bench and overhead press as the push exercises, and I've started to see the weights inch up. Here's my question. Do dips work well as the push exercise in Easy Strength? I get asked that dip question a lot. And of course, I always say there's two things. Some people, adolescent males, don't like it because it does hurt the sternum. I had a doctor tell me one time it's because the sternum is one of the last things to fully knit into that secondary puberty. So, you're fighting in a sense when you're with some athletes with dips, with, what their body is trying to do, you're pulling against it. The second big issue is if you're working with a North American, there's a real good chance they have a bad shoulder. And dips for a lot of people are just hard in the shoulders. I like dips. I think they have great value. I like the fact that you get mobility work in on every set. Now, for some people, there's the issue. I had someone tell me that they kept popping their neck every time they did dips. It was like a poor man's chiropractor, crack. And obviously there was something going on, and because the person didn't get relief, it caused more problems. If you can dip, the dip is a great exercise. So remember, if you have good shoulders, dips are fine. Now, everybody else, maybe it's not a good. If you have rough shoulders, keep searching. I've heard you discuss the dips are great for upper body hypertrophy, and you don't often recommend dips for younger people. I'm a 32-year-old male, but I haven't been able to find you recommend dips for an easy strength program in particular. I'm curious because I've done dips in a program, and I'm interested in programming in weighted dips as an alternative. So dips in easy strength is a good idea. You will need to add load. In the gyms I've always trained in, at the Pacifica Barbell Club, at some of the school facilities, we always had that weird belt with the chain on it, and that you would put the chain through a dumbbell or a kettlebell. Boy, I tell you, I had a dumbbell fall off one time, user error. It was on me. It starts to swing and it bounced. The nice thing about having that closed loop on the kettlebell is you don't ever have to worry about that. But you're going to have to add load, and I would recommend you play around when you add load with really light weights first. Try the 4 kilo kettlebell or a 10 pound dumbbell or a 10 pound plate. And just loop it through and try a few sets, because there is some swinging that goes on when you do dips. Maybe even have a week of just practicing weighted dips. Don't go to failure. Don't try to, don't be a hero. Just practice. And the only reason I even say that is because dips are wonderful. When you add load, it's a lot of weight almost immediately. So take your time ramping it up. Maybe even pull it out a week of just practicing the weighted dip, and then try to plug it in as a program. Okay? Fun question. Dips, chins, body weight, your body weight on your back squats. I write about that in the Easy Strength Omni book as easy hypertrophy. If your joints are good, the chin up, dip, and high rep back squat are money, if your joints are good. Now, if you're broken, let's go to plan B. Great question, Eric, and I appreciate that. Stan asked a question. based on an earlier episode. He says in episode 203, you suggest the armor building complex as a good complex to build every other workout around. So if you work out 3 times a week, you suggest doing the ABC 2 times one week and then 1 time the next week, each time alternating with your other or alternate workout. I like the idea of having a workout 1 and workout 2, 2 different workouts that you can alternate between, and I like this too, where the ABC complex is foundation around which the first workout is built. My question is, do you have any thoughts on a good ABC alternative workout if you're like me or an average middle-aged office worker looking to maintain general all-body fitness into later life? Maybe an alternate workout could itself be based upon a complex to keep the spirit of the ABC? ? Yeah, I mean, if you've read my work, you know about the humane burpee. I'm a big fan of the humane burpee. I'll give you the simple version. I feel like I've said it 1,000 times. 15 swings, 5 goblet squats, 5 push-ups, 15 swings, 4 goblet squats, 4 push-ups, 15 swings, 3-3, 15 2-2, 15 1-1. And you certainly could do that. It's a single kettlebell workout. There's another version where you go 15, 10 goblet squats, 10 push-ups, and then go 9-9 from there. But what I'd prefer you do is just go to danjohnuniversity.com and plug in the workout generator. I think if you're doing the ABC program, which is great, the more I teach it, do it, try to make it better, the more I realize that, and for those who don't know it, I have to always remind myself on my podcast, and I know some people don't like this, but there's always new people that I have to explain things to. The armor building complex, double kettlebells, 2 double kettlebell cleans, 1 double kettlebell press, 3 double kettlebell front squats, weight down. Okay. That covers all your bases, but I think for most people, and Stan, I don't have an 8, you're a middle-aged office worker. I would love to see you do our standard 3 sets of 8, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12 template that's in the workout generator. You're going to do a push, a pull, a hinge, a squat, a loaded carry. You're going to do some mobility movements in between. It can be, you can, depending on what you choose as exercises, you can go 15, 30 minutes. You could even go longer. And that probably be better for you. So the ABC this week twice with 1 total whole body workout. Next week, 2 total whole body workouts with 1 ABC. I think that's repeatable and doable until you email me again where you say, I'm an average retired athlete, 40 years from now or whatever it is. So that's a good question. I should be, by the time this comes out, my single kettlebell ABC workout should be available too. So I hope that helps. I like the idea that you're doing this. It's a nice thing. And if you start to feel a little burned out, and the only reason I even bring that up, Stan, is that it does happen, when you're doing complexes in our experience, 6 to 8 weeks is at the top end of being able to get complexes to work. Drop to 1 day a week, just week 1 and week 2, 1 ABC workout. And if you find yourself still going, I don't want to work out, maybe just drop the ABCs and just do the workout generator for a while. You do need to change. You do need to have some seasonal changes. You have to have rhythm changes. You have to have load changes. You have to exercise changes. I mean, it's so obvious to me that has to be part of a training program. And yet a lot of people think you can just do this workout the rest of your life. And that's really hard to do one thing the rest of your life. I remember when I was young and full of myself, I tried to eat the exact same meals 3 times a day. And I was so proud of myself. And I think I lasted 3 days. It's just humans crave some changes. So good luck to you. It's a good question. Thank you. Got a question from Vaughn. I'm in the Air Force and I have a special duty as the Base Honor Guard trainer. Our main mission is rendering military honors for fallen airmen, which includes pallbearing. Caskets can weigh up to 400 to 500 pounds, and the distance can vary depending on how far the hearse is from the mock-up. Plus factoring in that we have to walk in step throughout various environments, that is grass, gravel, up, down hills, lift over obstacles, etc. And I got to tell you, Vaughn, I appreciate that work. The honors we do for our dead, our military dead, is sacred, and I believe that. I remember my mom, when my brothers were over in Vietnam during the war, I mean, her greatest fear was the doors slamming, 2 doors slamming in a car, and looking up and seeing someone in uniform walk into her house. She had seen way too much of that in World War II. So I appreciate what you do. You do provide comfort, and you guys do make a difference. At my brother's funeral, you guys, it was the Army, but it was a fabulous job, and I appreciate it. Just, you should know that, okay? Typically, we have PT sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where it is usually self-paced because I'm not a personal trainer or anything like that. So I don't want to get anyone injured. Okay, hold on, we'll repeat that. Typically, we have PT sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where it is usually self-paced because I'm not a personal trainer or anything like that. So I don't want to get anyone injured by making them lift. We need someone qualified to help you then, okay? I do strongly suggest, however, that they get on a basic strength outline on non-PT days. Yet I know few actually will take the initiative. Some of these kids, adults, look as if they've never done any weight training and struggle holding an empty casket during training. It's very alarming. I've been thinking about implementing a basic training session on PT days with farmer walks with the trap bar and single arm kettlebell carry. I like both of those ideas, and I got one more for you. But I want to get your take on this first. I'm worried about if there will be carryovers because we carry the caskets with arms bent and farmer walks are done with straight arms. We're going to work well on this. Do you think this would be enough, or would you implement something else as well? Yes. Also, on days that is extremely crowded in the base gym and we do not have space to walk a good distance, what are your thoughts on weighted marches as a substitute? First off, let's get right to the point on that question, because that's the easiest one. Vaughn, marching in place with the suitcase carry, I'm starting to think might be better than actually walking with it. Marching in place really makes the feet work overtime. Your balance will work overtime. You can really feel your system lighten up. To make it harder, you go slower. So the slower you march in place, the harder it gets. And of course, that turns into an exercise that I made up called the vertical windmill. It might be worth your time to look up the vertical windmill. I have an article over on Dragon Door about it, and it's also in a couple of my books. The exercise I really think you need to add, and I'm getting this out of the Marine Corps, and they have the same duty. They have, obviously, and it's a very elite unit in the Marine Corps. It's interesting. The Army has an elite unit for the soldier, the unknown soldier monument, and it's amazing. The Marines elite unit have an elite unit for burying people. One of the exercises I would recommend is the cheat curl, and it's a power clean, but done with a curl grip, so that you're tossing the weight up. And if we have healthy elbows and healthy biceps, I think it's really a valuable exercise. And the reason I'm telling you this is that the Marine Corps elite unit, this is one of the things they do a lot of, because they feel like you feel. They have to look effortless doing this kind of movement, not just the curl part, but the unloaded part. So the power curl, you can do them from the hang, you can do them from the floor, like Stefan Fernholm used to do, because he had a bad wrist. Al Order, the 4-time Olympic discus champion, he considered these a foundational movement to throw the discus far. I like your idea here. I think the trap bar carries and the single kettlebell, the suitcase carry, I think those are great ideas. Toss in the power curl also, And then, of course, you got to take the next step. And I mean, you got to make this an elite unit. You've got to be talking to these people, your people, like this is important, because it really is. I mean, it really is. What you guys did for my brother was very important for me. And sometimes troopers, sometimes soldiers, sailors, Marines, corpsmen, Air Force, airmen, Coast Guarders, merchant mariners, French Foreign Legionnaires. Sometimes you get a job and you forget how it impacts everybody else. There are no unimportant jobs in any institution, and you really got to raise that level of pride. And I think you can do. I think your combination exercises, the farmer walk, the suitcase carry, and the cheek curl, power curl. That might be a perfect combination. Great question. And once again, thank you so much for your service and for what you do for everybody. Okay, thank you. We have a question from Elise. In episode 200, you mentioned that you have been doing 10,000 hip thrusts with your students. Well, I've been doing it as a thing. I just recently finished 20,000, which was fascinatingly not as hard as it sounds. It's still hard. I wanted to ask you more details. Are those body weight reps? Yes. How many reps do you do at a time? So right behind me, I have my Brett Contreras glute loops. So I put the glute loops around, just above my knees, right on the horseshoe muscles. I lay on the ground, palms facing the ceiling. I drive my knees apart. Sometimes I bring my heels together in what's called the frog style hip thrust. And then I try to, the whole time I'm doing it, I'm pushing my knees apart. So because what I'm trying to do on this is I'm trying to get high reps on my glute muscles. Obviously, I do deficit deadlifts. I do the Olympic lifts. I front squat, goblet squat, overhead. I mean, I work my glutes, but I'm at a place in my life where I'm trying to get myself so that my glutes are extremely strong. Now, interesting, after my run and canoe yesterday, my glutes are sore today, and it really threw me off. And I'm thinking, well, it's because you've been doing so much glute work. There's a couple ways to attack it. You'll find very quickly that you can do 100 reps fairly quickly. I think the most I've done in a set is 300. I've also done the 500 as 2 sets of 250, and frankly, I've only done that once. And I gotta tell you, my glutes were on fire. Generally, another thing you might want to add too, just as an idea, this is a little break that we do, is you do 100 hip thrusts and then you do 25 clamshells, where you go like that, then sit up or stand up, walk around, and then get back down and do that 5 times. 100 unweighted, but with knee band, glute loop, hip thrusts, 25 clamshells, stand up, sit down, fight. Okay. Is it a great workout? Well, you got to remember, sometimes at least not every workout is designed to put a human on the moon or win the Olympic gold medal or win the Super Bowl or win the World Cup. Sometimes you're doing workouts to test things to see if they have any value. What I found from doing the 500 hip thrusts a day for a long time and mixing in the armor building workouts and then mixing in some days the perfect workout, what I found is that intensive glute work. Of course, if you're doing 500 hip thrusts and then you do the ABC workout with those rounds of 3 front squats, 3 front squats, 3 front squats, 3 front squats, you build your glutes. And then when you add the vertical presses in, I got to tell you, if you're on the road, and on this road trip I'm on right now, I only have 1 kettlebell and my glute loops. I got to tell you, it's not bad. I feel good. So maybe for 2 months, a year, or something like this might be a fun idea. If you travel a lot, it'd be a nice thing to kind of keep in your hat. So, when you get to the motel room or whatever you go, you plop on the floor and give me 500, it might not be a bad thing to do. You mix that with walking around either as a tourist or in an airport. If you end up in the far terminal in Salt Lake City, you'd be glad you did this workout. Yeah, it's good. Is it perfect? No, of course not. But it's not a bad little thing. Think of it as like cinnamon and oatmeal. Put a little dust on it. You don't want half a bowl of cinnamon and half a bowl of oatmeal. So dust it off every so often and try it. If you get to 10,000, you might be just like me, where you stand up when I finally did the first 10,000. I stood up and I went, I like that. And when I did it another round to get to 20,000, when I finished the 20,000th hip thrust, stood up and went, okay, I can see some value in that. Not for a while again, but I can see some value in that. Okay, good question. When I get back home, when I train at home, I'll be back to doing those hard hip thrust workouts on my buns and guns workout. And I always do hip thrusts in my warm up. It's goblet squats, hang, some hip thrusts. If I hang, I goblet squat, and I do some hip thrusts. Generally, I've lubricated my joints well enough that I'm ready to do just about anything. Then I do specific warm-ups like for the snatch, clean and jerk, or whatever. Good question. Thank you. Patrick asked a question. You have said that if all you did was clean and press, you wouldn't need much else. That's a question I answered a long time ago online. Somebody asked that question. I still hate the question, but if all I could do is one exercise, what would it be? And I always say clean and press because I think it works everything. I do that continuous clean and press in my warm-ups where I clean and press, clean and press, clean and press, clean and press. It's fabulous. Warm-up is a great tiny complex. And if you did 5 sets of 8 of the clean and press and then just had to leave the gym, you've had a good day. All right. I hope I am not misquoting you. That's why I fixed it. Does that apply to kettlebells? Yes. Dumbbells with an asterisk. And barbell clean and press. Were you leaning toward the barbell version when making that statement? I like kettlebell clean and press. I like barbell clean and press. When I was young, we did a lot of dumbbell clean and presses, but it's got the same issue as bench press clean and press. You got that weight whacking you in the weird spots in your body. Now, a lot of you are probably listening and going, that doesn't bother me. And I appreciate that. But, I've done some serious clean and presses with dumbbells. And I got to tell you, when you're using the hex ones and you get hit by that little triangle, it'll wake up your skin, I'll tell you that. But there's nothing wrong with dumbbell clean and press. But just, there's the caveat. I threw that out for you. Just checking, because I've been doing time sets of dumbbell clean and press, and I love the way I feel after I've completed the workout. Typically, I'm doing multiple time sets of 2 to 3 minutes of double clean and press with 45 to 55 in each hand. You're doing 3 minutes of 55 pounds in each hand dumbbell clean and press. Well, I got to tell you, that's impressive, Patrick. That's good work. What you'll probably find when you're doing that, Patrick, you might not need much else. I don't know what you're striving for, but I think you're on the right track. I like, when I train with Mike and TJ and the gang, Andrew and everybody else, Kevin, we have a great home, Brian and Erica and everybody shows up. It's just wonderful. I like that dumbbell, I like the barbell clean and press the best because we go over to the rack, Mike and I go to the rack, and we take the weight off like this. We do hang, clean and press. We do 5 sets of 8. I can get up to about 115, 125 in the warm up. And I got to tell you, 125 pounds in the hang, clean and press doesn't sound like much for a set of 8, but holy cow. I put the weight in there and I got all this weird wet stuff on my face and I breathe funny for a few minutes. So I'm not as good with the dumbbell work. I don't know. I know that what your load is pretty good, but so for me, the clean and press, clean and press, clean and press, clean and press is one of my favorite ways to go. So yeah, that's just excellent. He has a final, just real quick question. Now, do you still train with the slosh pipe? I don't think that I've heard it come up during the podcast. I may have missed it. If you are still doing the slosh pipe, how do you work it in your workout? Interesting, Patrick, and thank you, because I still think the slosh pipe is one of the best ways to train athletes I know. The downside of the slosh pipe is I will run over to somebody and say, put it down, put it down, put it down. And they'll say, no, I got this. And then it'll hit the asphalt on my street there in Murray, Utah, or it'll bounce it and you break it. And so the problem is, and I'll be honest with this, sounds like I'm cheap, but I can't keep, it's easy to afford. The problem when you buy a slosh pipe, I got my Mazda, and I'm trying to stick this massive, thing in my Mazda, and then I got to go home and I got to glue you put the purple stuff and the pink stuff on, and then you have to let that dry, and then you fill it 2/3 with water, and then you have to have a friend hold it so you can, do the whole thing, and then you stick the cap on, and then the next day you're out there and someone who knows better than me is going, whoa, put it down, crack, and we break the slosh pipe again. I'm not cheap. I'm just tired of replacing slosh pipes. The other thing is, it's real hard to put a slosh pipe in a typical garbage can. I don't know how long it is. It's long. I don't know, 18 feet. Okay, I don't know what it is. 20 feet, whatever. And then I have to get the hacksaw and listen to me complaining. Listen to me. I'm embarrassed. But what I just said is true. It's just too much. I remember one time this famous person broke my slosh pipe because they were too proud to put it down, and it was like, and it was it. So the whole training, I wouldn't say the whole day, but we had all these little things we were trying to get done in this workshop I was doing, and it was all, okay, now we got to go to plan B, and everyone else, got 30 other people saying, well, I wanted to use a slosh pipe. Well, so if you do make a slosh pipe, don't let anybody else use it, okay? And if it does break, you'll understand the joy of chopping up a slosh pipe so it'll fit in your in your garbage can. Great question. I appreciate that. Thank you. Bye-bye. George asks a question. I'm a regular listener, and as much as I feel like I learn from you, I've never felt I had a burning question of my own. But finally, here it is. This is a burning question from George. I'm a 32-year-old male, and I've always perceived myself to be reasonably fit and strong. I've hit basic strength standards in the weight room, and for the past year or so, I've been on a calisthenics kick, doing high volume, high rep, low set, most days a week training, which has nicely complemented my kickboxing. I'm not in any chronic pain, no tendonitis, but like many of us Western males, I do carry tension in my shoulders and hamstrings that normal stretching just doesn't seem to relieve. Several months ago, I started training Tai Chi after a long time away from it, because it would be the only a remedy to some of these low-lying muscular tensions, but also a boon to my other martial endeavors. On the contrary, it's been a bit of an obsession in its own right, and now I'm starting to view the muscle tightness more so as a hindrance to my Tai Chi training than the Tai Chi as a cure for the tightness. My best guess is that my high rep body weight training is mostly to blame, and that some other programs will be better suited this newfound passion. In short, I'm looking to stay lean and keep getting stronger while also minimizing muscle tightness and fatigue. Why do I feel like you might have the answer? Well, if you read any of the great martial arts books, there's this great book, I can't seem to find it, Zen and the Art of Combat, I think was the name of it. It was just a fabulous book. And of course, you have to mention Bruce Lee's book, even though, I don't know if Bruce Lee was that great of I don't know. But he certainly wrote a lot of things. His concepts on isometrics were well worth your time. And if you look at his workouts, I'd rather see more people train like him than some of the nonsense I see. But any martial art book, you're always going to, any martial art, and it's an overused phrase, but it's always that yin-yang concept. And one of the issues with martial arts, but it's also the same issue we see in weightlifting, is that, you know, we're trying to get you so tense, isometrics, total tension. But I don't want to live like this. I want to blow it off. I want to blow the tension off, which is why I'm always fascinated. If you read Pavel's early books, and if you get on the Dragon Door forums and you talk to a lot of the martial artists, a lot of the early kettlebell people were martial artists. It's because a lot of them felt that the kettlebell, especially the hard style method, really tied in well with what they were teaching and doing in their art form, their martial art. And so you want a ton of tension when you strike. You know, I tell my throwers, you want to turn into an arrow when you block. When you hit someone in an American football game, you want to turn yourself into a torpedo. But you can't go through a whole game, locked up. You got to learn to blow the tension off. If you take an RKC cert from me, we'll spend a lot of time practicing fast and loose, actively blowing the tension off. Now, when I coach people sometimes, that's going to sound weird, and I hope this helps you, George, but one of the things I've noticed in the past few years is that most people I work with, especially female clients, if their tension scale goes from 1 to 10, a lot of people don't seem to be living up and down anymore. One of the reasons I like to lift weights is it gets me up to an 8 or 9, and then I sit down, I go to 1 to 2, and so in my workouts I flow up and down. And when I throw, I have to have that, I need about a tension level about 4. So I need to be active but relaxed. I need to be ready to hit it but loose. So I'm wondering, George, if that you've gotten yourself into an either or on this a little bit, which is not uncommon. But I'm worried about this. Maybe you're thinking that the Tai Chi is for suppleness, relaxation, everything else, but your other stuff, your calisthenics, is for hardening. And what I would suggest to you, if you can, and this is something I've picked up on a one-on-one conversation with someone on my inner circle, is that if you can, try to practice on blending the two. So if you're going to okay, let's just pretend. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're doing high rep calisthenics. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you're doing your Tai Chi. Well, after a set of a calisthenic movement, let's just pick push-ups, because that just came in my head. Maybe as you pop up, as you're relaxing, you breathe through and you relax everything out. Maybe you're doing a cluster of calisthenic movements in a circuit. During that rest period between circuits, rest by practicing the other dimension. There's nothing new about this. San Jose State track team revolutionized everybody. In the 60s, Bud Winter's famous book, Relax and Win. I'm basically just giving you the basics there. One of the things I learned from Dick Notmeyer, my weightlifting coach, is that until your hands grip the bar, you've got to have a tranquil mind and be loose. And then you light it up. And when the official says down and you bring the bar down, you relax, you breathe out, you wave, and you stay calm and tranquil. When I applied that to my throwing, I went from being a pretty good thrower to a fairly good thrower. It's probably true in every aspect of life. Try to get yourself then, George, I'm thinking, to mix your passions a little bit together so that you're getting practice of going tense to loose. My limited exposure to Tai Chi, I did another method of Chinese longevity exercises. And frankly, I don't remember the name of it, but we spent a lot of time doing the archer. And the archer that we did was in the horse stance. So we would be in the horse stance for I'm going to exaggerate, 30 minutes, but it could have been 30. And to stay in the horse stance that long without relieving it, you got to quit. You can't be pretending you have 700 pounds in your back. You just got to, be there and breathe through. So that's my advice to you. It's not the best advice in the world, because it's certainly, this isn't, I'm giving you good advice, but maybe some other people have some other ideas, and I welcome them, and thank you so much. Well, folks, I thought that was pretty good. I thought we had some good questions this week. Remember, if you have questions, send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every week, every question you send. As I recover from my duathlon yesterday, I will continue to keep working, coming up with some new ideas. I have a new book out, and I'm working on the next two right now. And like all of us, until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning.